Hi there, everyone. I'm Erika Olson. I've been a consultant, a MBA admissions consultant at Stacy Blackman Consulting for over a decade now. And today I am here to talk to you about how important it is to actually communicate in your applications why you want an MBA in the first place. Now, I know this may seem like duh, like isn't that, just inherent in applying to an MBA program that it should be obvious why, I want a business school degree. But no, it's not. And there's actually about four different types of profiles of MBA applicants that really need to differentiate themselves and talk about specifically why they need an MBA. And we'll go into all of that. But what we find is that a lot of times, people that are applying to MBA programs are already kind of type A, overachievers in the first place. And they do such a good job of conveying that in their materials that the admissions committee might actually be like, they don't really need a spot at our program because they're going to do just fine on their own. That's what you don't want, right? You don't want to just oversell yourself so much that they think their spot is better, somebody else is more deserving because they can actually help that person, achieve their goals. So I'm going to go over, like I said, a few types of applicants that really, really need to think about this. And then I'm also going to talk about a few things that are honest reasons for wanting to get an MBA, but might not be things you actually want to directly talk about in your materials. So, again, this, sometimes seems like a weird topic, but you really need to still convey it in your materials or why you need, not just want, but need an MBA. So let's talk about kind of the four types of applicants that I was referring to before, the four types of candidates who this is really important for. The first group is maybe one of the biggest pools of applicants that there is, though the people who are expected to get an MBA as part of their career path. So I'm talking about people that have spent 2 years as a management consultant, 2 years as an investment banker, maybe somebody that's done a year or two in investment banking and then in private equity, and then it's like they apply. They do this because everybody before them did it. This is what their companies expect. This is what their careers require. It might be because all their friends did. Any of these reasons are not good enough for the admissions committee. You're an individual. You have likely different goals than all the people that came before you. And if you don't take time to think through those things, then it's going to be tough differentiating yourselves from everybody else that, quite frankly, might not have a lot of things to say different from you when it comes to the kinds of projects they've worked on or deals they've closed or just those overrepresentative industry buckets that you all may be in. So you do not want to be writing something like, my 2 year program is coming to an end and now it's time for me to pursue an MBA. No, that's not what anybody should write. That's not what they want to hear. A second group that needs to think a little bit more about why they need an MBA is somebody who might already have two or more degrees. If you already have a bachelor's and another kind of master's, or maybe even a PhD in something, that could come off to the admissions committee that you're quote unquote a degree collector, and that you really don't know what to do with your life. So you're signing up for yet another, few years to figure it out. In higher education. So you really need to do something in your materials that does not reinforce that kind of suspicion that you're just collecting degrees. The third group is what I'll call experience outliers, those who might either be on kind of the younger side or the older side of the applicant pool. If you've got less than 2 years experience, obviously some programs have specific like applications for those who are maybe coming straight from college or something like that. But if you're applying somewhere that doesn't, you really need to think about why a little bit more life and career experience wouldn't benefit you? Like, why now? Why is now a good time? You need to convince them of that because um you're supposed to learn from each other and therefore people are supposed to learn from you. And if you're coming very fresh, out of college or just a few years under your belt, that might not be enough for somebody who's been 5 years out, to feel like they're going to have much to learn from you. And then on the opposite end, if you've been out, let's say over 10 years, you have to have a really good reason for explaining, why you would be pursuing an MBA now. Like admissions committees want to give spots to people who they feel like they're going to help in their career, that they're going to accelerate in their career somehow, that they're going to change the trajectory of their career, that this person couldn't achieve what they want to achieve without an MBA, and that the person has already convinced them that, they're likely to achieve goals because they've already been a higher achiever, but they really do need, kind of the knowledge, skill set, and network that comes with an MBA program. So if you have been out of work for, like I said, 8 years, it could come off like an MBA is more of an afterthought for you because you're just feeling stuck right now. Maybe you feel like you went down the wrong career path. So you need to make sure, again, that you're not giving that impression. And then the fourth group of candidates that really needs to spend some extra time thinking about why they need an MBA are those who have already been just mega, mega successful to date and whose career goals don't seem to be anything that you really need an MBA to achieve. Like if you've already launched your own company and sold it, if you've already, run a business, I mean, there's a lot of things where they would just be like, kind of like, maybe this person's burnt out and just wanting to like chill, here for a few years. Like, we don't get why they would need us. That's, again, kind of that last group that I wanted to mention where you really need to communicate why you need an MBA to be successful in the future. So like I said, everybody needs to communicate that, but those four groups, it's just that much more critical. And this is, of course, on top of making sure that your resume is, up to snuff, that your recommenders will have their letters uploaded on time and are the right recommenders, that your essays are compelling, position you well, all that good stuff. So that's why I wanted to dedicate an episode to just like, why do you want to get an MBA? Because most programs don't straight up ask it. So that's the tricky part, is that even though that might not be a straight up question in the application, it's not something that you need to like not convey. Like you have to convey it still. You have to find a way to convey it. So let's start getting into the specifics. So the why an MBA and why the school specifically are kind of intertwined in your essays and even your interview responses. So, you'll likely want to cover both, but today I'm not going to talk about how to express your fit in with any specific program. That we have other episodes about that. For now, you need to show you researched a program by integrating classes, professors, clubs, other part of their special curriculum into your essays. And again, we have many other episodes on that. What I want to just talk about is how to clearly detail kind of at that more overarching level, like what you still need to learn and what experience you still need to gain in order to reach your career goals, and how an MBA is the right degree and a next step for you. So one of the most common reasons that is a legit reason is to help you learn about another functional area or another industry. So let's say you've spent your entire career in marketing, but you want to lead a company one day. You're not going to be able to do that without understanding finance, financial statements, accounting, operations, just leadership, how companies run. On the flip side, if you've only been in banking or, financial services, you might not have any exposure whatsoever to like social media strategy, competitive strategy, digital strategy, again, or organizational behavior. If you're coming from the military or the nonprofit world, that's an even or an even more untraditional, sorry, career path, but you're looking to pivot into, the private sector, the corporate world. You may have never been exposed to anything, having anything to do with really corporate America or any of the traditional business functions at all. And that's okay. I always like to remind people there was a surgeon, a kindergarten teacher, a priest, a pop star, many, many people with interesting and untraditional backgrounds in my section at Harvard Business School and at all, in all graduating classes at the top schools. So not having any business exposure is certainly not a showstopper. It's just that, again, you need to like remember that you should be communicating why it's important for you to have that exposure and what you want to do next. So overall, if you're somebody that, wants to change industries, move up in your organization, be able to lead with maybe a wider purview than you currently have or your current function, you have an easy case to make of why you need an MBA. An MBA can help you supplement kind of specific functional knowledge, introduce you to classmates that, maybe came from those functions or those industries that can help you network and that you can learn from their expertise. Another common major reason why it makes sense to pursue an MBA is to speed up your career progress or like kind of launch your career to leapfrog over peers so that maybe you're not, having to go doom, 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 doom with each type of promotion that you would get otherwise, help you reach that next level more quickly. So if you've been in the workforce for a while, you can kind of just plateau and find that you're not really learning anything anymore. And things might stall without an MBA to give you, again, kind of skills and the network and experience of more of a management level or eventually C-suite position. So on that note, one of the main focus areas of most at least top MBA programs, but many in general is just leadership. All schools are going to cover case studies, have guest speakers, do role plays, and offer probably tests and other little things, quizzes and other tools to help you figure out what your leadership style is. You're going to learn management tactics, business strategy, competitive strategy, as I mentioned before, organizational behavior is a big one. So many things that are critical to know, right? To run your own business or successfully manage others or lead a division or a region. So, those are all legit reasons to want an MBA and, of course, ideally tying them back to your specific career goals. Another great one and even more common reason more recently is being able to achieve a more global perspective, right? Taking in more diverse viewpoints, another great reason to pursue your MBA. For those of you who have maybe worked at the same organization your entire career, or maybe you've moved around but stayed still in the same function or overall industry, and you've never had any international exposure, an MBA is going to provide you with classmates from all over the place. It's probably give you some international travel opportunities or even international like project opportunities. It's going to just open your eyes and help prepare you for the future of competing, globally. There's very few organizations that don't need to worry and think and plan about things on a global scale these days. So, or at least consider a global customer base, if your business is online at all. And then there are, of course, many, many applicants who want to launch a business of their own one day. If you fall into this category, like really the worst thing you could say is like, I need an MBA, because I want to like run my own business one day. Like that tells them nothing, and a bazillion people could do that. Being an entrepreneur is a whole new ball game. You're going to have a completely different set of worries and goals. You're going to need to hire the right people. You're going to need to know how to operate within the budget you have. So business school can prepare you for that undertaking and introduce you to potential business partners who believe in you and maybe financial backers and all that sort of thing. But you don't just want to be like, I need an MBA so I can start my own company. You have to get specific with, again, tying it back to your career goals. What kind of company is it? What specifically are you missing? What are the specific gaps in your knowledge and your experience and your network? So that's another one. Obviously, there's no way I'm going to be able to figure out and cover every single reason that is out there for somebody to want to pursue an MBA and truly need one. But I think those are a lot of the main reasons. And then I just want to talk about, before we wrap up, a few reasons that might be true, but that you probably don't want to mention. So, things like, you'll make more money, right? In the end, we're like, yeah, okay, that's great. That'll probably happen, but that's not gonna get you any brownie points. Just talking about money. Another reason is that an MBA could probably help you move. Like if you've always been on the West Coast and want to live in the East Coast, you've always been the Midwest and want to go somewhere internationally or whatever. I mean, yes, an MBA can do that, but that's not really um you just personally wanting to move is not a compelling reason for them to give a precious spot to you. Like you need to make sure, let's say you want to end up in London, you have to really make a case for why London Business School is the right fit, why what you want to do kind of is best done or needs to be done in London, or like you have to make a case for yourself. And vice versa. If you're an international applicant and you want to, live in the US, you're going to have to make a case for that and not just come off like you're trying to figure out an easier way to get US citizenship or something like that. And I also feel like an MBA just is an investment in yourself. Like I personally feel like that. It certainly was for me. Decades after I'm gone, like I'm not gone. After I graduated, it continues to be something that has positively affected my life and opened up doors that it wouldn't have. Um, but again, and like it's something nobody can ever take away and gives you credibility. But again, those are not really like things you can say. And so I just wanted to caution people on that. I also think that sometimes people are so focused on like that immediate short-term goal, like what they want to do right after they get an MBA, or like that initial, salary bump, or like that initial city they live in right after, that they forget that this is like what I said, it's bonds and friendships and knowledge that's going to last forever. Like you'll always have the alumni network to lean on. You'll always have the school resources. And I don't think I realized that when I was in the thick of applying. And those are things I'm really thankful for now. That I think, again, if you can find a way to specifically address, fine, but it's hard to. So I've hoped that I've convinced you that in the process of pulling together all your materials and working on your resume and essays and all that stuff, that you should be figuring out a way to not only highlight, your achievements and kind of what makes you you and what makes you tick and why you be an asset to the class, but also why you deserve a spot because you really truly need an MBA. And again, there's not necessarily going to straight up be a why do you need an MBA prompt. Um, and if you really can't find a way to fit this kind of why an MBA, answer into maybe very short essay set that they've given you, that's okay. Just be prepared to do it in an interview. And but if there is an opportunity to point out maybe gaps that you have in your knowledge or whatever, don't be afraid to do that. Like again, it doesn't need to, if you're perfect, why should they admit you? You will learn nothing. So don't be afraid to point out your gaps, what you've never had exposure to, what you're lacking, um, and how exactly an MBA, ideally exactly an MBA from their program, would help you. The admissions committee is not looking to put together a group of people that they can teach nothing to, right? And have nothing to learn from each other. So make sure that you take those opportunities to communicate that. And I will leave you with the quote today from the one and only Albert Einstein. which I think is relative or relevant to everything we were talking about today. Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. Thanks so much.